Welcome back to the On Business podcast. With tons of experience in different industries in Canada and the United States, Danielle and Brandon give you real talk, no nonsense expert advice about running and owning successful companies. Here's your host, Danielle Jenkins and Brandon White.
My back's killing me. I moved a chair this week that I shouldn't have moved, and I did, and I lifted it right here because we had a in-studio guest this week. I've started to open up as long as they've taken COVID tests. You know, these podcasts are actually getting tagged in Spotify if we talk about the C word.
Oh, like tagged in a good way or a bad way?
Well, I don't know. There's warnings on our shows that when you and I talk about COVID, because it must listen and transcribe it, and it has warning. I don't think we're saying anything fake, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, they do it on any of the podcasts now. I was looking.
They're probably trying to make sure that nobody's saying bad things about
fake news.
COVID. Yeah.
Bad things. Anyway, I lifted this chair and I should have wheeled it. And you ever lifted something or done something and you know you're going to pull a muscle, but you just say to yourself, I'm going to muscle through this and get it done. Mm-hmm. And I did that, and then I couldn't even breathe because of back muscle. But I saw you driving with Manny in your lap.
Yes.
The other day.
Yes, that was yesterday. He is still very much attached to me. And so we're trying to keep him in the seat. So Benny's an angel. He sits on the floor. He does his thing. He sleeps. He's an angel. Manny is still like, mommy, mommy, mommy. So I put him in the passenger seat. Not good enough. I put him on the ground with Benny. Not good enough. So then he wants to come over, and he just sits and just looks out the window.
Do you
Probably
think
not
that
the
they
safest.
should be in kennels in your car? That's what I was going to say. Shouldn't they be in kennels in your car? Because you know what happens if you get in an accident, they go through the windshield.
So usually we actually have a dog hammock for a car. So it goes in the back seat and it goes from the front to the back and it covers the doors so nothing gets ruined. They hang out back there. They're completely safe. They can't fly off of things. Their toys are back there. Their blankies are back there. But we were just going
they could get to the front, couldn't they?
No, because
the front of it?
It like goes across the seats. So unless they're going to fit through like
good.
the 6 inches and go over, but no, so they're very safe back there. But we were just going on a quick 10-minute drive. So Benny loves hopping into the front seat and Manny is just a baby. So I have to deal with that for a few more weeks, I think.
Wow. What else is happening? It sounds like you said, we were talking earlier before we started recording, that you have a lot of pollen in Canada right now.
Yeah. Allergy season is really bad up here right now. Everything is covered in pollen. I may sound nasally because I am because of pollen in my face and
Should
my
we
head.
produce that out? We could produce it out.
No. People need to know it's a real thing. Yes, so, I do suffer from allergies.
Fake news here.
Yeah, so it's very polleny up here, and I do suffer from it quite bad, but I will not take drugs. I am okay. I will battle through the headache, just like I did when I cut out caffeine. I will get through it.
I think you should do that ear candling we were talking about. It totally changed it for me. And I don't know if it's controversial or there's people out there who say you need wax in your ears. Here's all I know is when I do that and there's pollen and I'm stuffed up for a week, 2 or 3, and I do it and I look at the stuff that came out, it sure looks like the same yellow crap that's on the car. And I think it just sits in your ear canal, which is connected to your nasal passages, and it just consistently bothers you. And after I do that, I mean, it is night and day. It's not fake. It's going from feeling stuffy to both my nostrils are open. And
Wow.
it, obviously, if you keep having pollen, it's going to keep coming. But I highly recommend it. But you definitely need to have someone watching you when that thing's on fire. And you definitely need to put a big plate next to your head so that your hair and your face doesn't catch on fire.
I mean, I don't know if I would do that myself. I would probably go to someone that can
No,
do
you
that
can't
for
do
me.
it yourself.
Okay.
No, well, Sergo could do it. You create the thing and then he just watches it. And then that's how I do it. And then I sit on the couch. It just takes like 5 minutes.
So you don't go to like a clinic to go and do it?
No, I go buy these things from the Whole Foods equivalent here, which is called New Leaf, or I order them online. And then Yvette does it. And then I just hold it and then she watches it. And then you really don't want to do it yourself. I mean, you probably will get someone to do it. I don't know. Do they do that at the nail salon or the hair salon? Maybe they do.
No, but I know lots of people like naturopaths and like wholeness coaches or lifestyle people and stuff. So I'm assuming that they would probably do something like that in their clinic. Like where I go and get my IVs,
if you want to,
maybe.
Yeah, check it out. I don't know. That sounds expensive, but you know me. I'm always trying to I make my own mouth guards for sleeping. I'll tell you what, if I could give the candle thing for the ear, I wasn't a believer. I did it. Yvette suggested it and it worked. The other thing I would tell people as it relates to health, not that we're talking about health today, but I guess we sort of are, considering what are we going to talk about if entrepreneurs are born or built, but is get yourself, especially business owners and entrepreneurs, is get yourself a mouth guard to wear at night, because you will grind your teeth and your teeth will turn brown.
So I can add to that. I actually, not because I knew that they were going to turn brown. That's something that I've never heard, but I actually have a Invisalign that I sleep with at nighttime because I do grind my teeth, and I also have a condition called TMJ. So I have to get Botox in my jaw because I have overactive masseter muscles. So basically, on top of the stress of being an entrepreneur / business owner, and with my TMJ condition, I'm constantly grinding my teeth. So the reason I have my Invisalign is to keep my teeth straight so I don't like turn them crooked or wake up with insane jaw pain.
Well, the reason they turn brown, when you said that, because I'm sure listeners are going to say, Brandon, they don't turn brown. It's not coffee. The enamel gets taken off of your teeth, and then you see what is underneath your tooth, which then the brown is coming through. So a lot of people do have coffee stains or tea stains or things like that, but a lot of it is from grinding your teeth at night. And my doctor suggested that years ago, and my teeth aren't white. I mean, I try to keep them as white as possible, but they're not brown. And the reason is that. So if you have an Invisalign, or I ordered this mouth guard online, that's the dentist was going to charge $500 or $600. So I went online and they send you the kit. You take the mouth imprint yourself. It's just like, I don't know if you played sports. When we used to have the mouth guard, you put it in hot water, you put it in your mouth, you imprint it, and then it cools and it does it. So it's sort of like that, but it's a professional one. So you take your imprint, you send it away, and it's a fifth of the cost, and it still works fine. It works totally fine. But yeah, so between ear candling and mouth guards, I think that's good advice for anybody at any age. Especially if I could go back, I'd be wearing a mouth guard certainly in my early 20s. But, you know, at any age, at least catch it, and it will eliminate. Because I don't know about you, but one of the things I look at when I see people, first thing is teeth and shoes. Not because I'm looking for some, which we were talking about earlier, high-end shoes. I'm just looking to see what is not the brand, but what is the style. So are you wearing Chucks? Are you wearing Vans? Are you wearing high heels? Are you wearing flats? Are you wearing semi heel? Yeah.
What are you wearing right now,
Don't you
Brandon?
think teeth is I'm barefoot.
You're barefoot.
Yeah, barefoot.
That says it all. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. Oh, that's so funny. I'm wearing
Yeah, I'm completely.
I'm wearing my Steve Madden mules right now.
Steve Madden.
Yeah.
Steve Madden. Are they still a thing? That was in the Wolf of Wall Street. Are they still in style?
I think they're just kind of like an average shoe these days, to be honest. I don't know if they're like a high-end shoe. They're just so comfy to wear around the house.
How much are they?
These ones were like $90.
How much is a Steve? Oh, so that's reasonable. I wouldn't know that was a Steve Madden shoe or not. I would just be looking at the style to make an assessment very quickly to say, oh, well, those are sort of fancy, versus wearing Crocs is a different feel, or flip-flops.
Right.
Which probably you're not going to wear flip-flops.
I do have flip-flops.
Do you even wear what are they? Are they high-end flip-flops, or do you wear?
No.
Do you wear Reef or something?
No,
like
they're
that?
just like regular, like black leather, like flip-flops that I just wear. Like if I'm just like taking out the garbage or going to the pool, like
leather
I don't wear them
flip-flops.
like.
See, that would say something. Leather flip-flops. So I would just say, wow, she wears leather flip-flops.
Yeah, I think flip-flops are made for like the beach or the pool, not to wear out shopping.
Well, you haven't visited Northern California yet.
I have not. And actually, it's funny you say this, and I know we're kind of getting off of topic, but a girlfriend of mine from London, England, who dresses very much like me, professionally, doesn't really wear a lot of like athletic wear out. She actually is in LA this week, and she put on her Instagram story, she was wearing like crop yoga pants and like a crop top for yoga, like what we would wear to like do Pilates or yoga in. And she was walking down the street in LA, and her little story said, "It's been 5 days in LA, and I am now a person that wears athleisure in public." Because it seems to be a thing.
Yeah, everybody wear. It's not just LA. It's everywhere in California here, Northern California. Yvette wears her, I don't know whether you call them yoga pants or whatever they are, every day.
Wow.
Every day. Out to dinner. We went out to dinner the other night to a nice restaurant, and
she wore like
it's pretty much accepted.
Leggings?
No, they are athletic leggings. That's what I'm saying. Yoga pants or whatever they're called. They're Lululemon or Athletica or I don't know. She's got different brands that fit different for her. Is it Stay Up? But because when she runs for dog agility. But that's what she wears almost every single day.
And it's acceptable to wear them for dinner.
It's acceptable to show up with a T-shirt for dinner. I mean, some restaurant, it's very casual. California is very different. If you showed up to dinner, maybe in the city there's a few places, and maybe in Palo Alto, but for the most part, no, man. People show up in jeans, Vans, and a T-shirt, and women could, not all women. I mean, there are fancy places where women will wear a dress. I mean, Yvette, when we go to a wedding, doesn't wear yoga pants.
Lululemon.
Although it wouldn't be, someone wouldn't, I don't think someone would, you wouldn't say, oh my God, someone wouldn't freak out if someone did that. Because maybe they wear yoga pants with nice shoes and a top. And and it's also the weather. You have to remember the weather here every single day is pretty much, you can have your door open, especially LA is warmer in most places in LA, and it's just the super nice weather. So you're just going to ruin your nice clothes. In LA, it actually can get hot, meaning 90. So I actually remembered the equation so I could do this with us. It's 90 minus 32. That's 58 times times 5/9. So let's just do 58 divided by 2. So 30 is like 27 degrees Celsius.
Hot.
That's hot, right?
Yeah, that is hot.
Yeah. So when you're doing that, are you going to wear a nice dress shirt, or no, you're going to sweat and you're going to ruin your shirt? So most people don't, in general, don't do that. If you, but anyway, yeah, it's super casual here. Cool. Let's talk about if entrepreneurs are born or what is
made.
it?
Born or made?
Or made. What do you think?
I have a weird theory on this because I can't say one or the other. This is my thought. There are many skills that entrepreneurs / business owners need to have to be successful. Leading up to the thought of being an entrepreneur or a business owner sometimes is like my situation, where you just kind of do something and it ends up being a successful thing, occurrence. But then there's also, it could be the right opportunity or just right place, right time. So I think leading up to being an entrepreneur / business owner can sometimes not be kind of your game plan, like it wasn't mine. However, once that opportunity or once that occurrence is there are many skills that you need to maintain that successful idea, venture, company, business, whatever it may be. Things like, time management, leadership skills, communication skills, things like that. Like there's so many that you need to learn and practice and be good at. So it's not like you're born, well, some people may be, but you may not be born with exceptional leadership skills. So those are things that you have to learn, i.e. make for yourself. But then I also think that there are so many people, even people that work with me, they possess amazing leadership skills, amazing time management skills, amazing creativity skills, but they're not interested in being even a manager, let alone, like we've approached them like, listen, we think you'd be a great manager. Would you like to? And they said, no, we just want to work our 9 to 5. We don't want any more responsibility. So I think it's like a half and half, because some people I feel maybe are born with something in their brain that's wired a little bit differently that tells them they need to be an entrepreneur or business owner, or maybe it's a little something in the brain that when things get tough, they automatically turn to a business owner / entrepreneur. So for example, myself, I grew up wanting to be a lawyer. I was going to work for a law firm. That was my life. That's what I wanted to do. I never ever thought of being an entrepreneur. I didn't, in grade 5, write on my thing when I grew up, I want to be an entrepreneur. That's not what I wanted to do. But then when things got tough, instead of going, oh, screw it, what am I going to do? Just go on welfare and just sit at home and cry because now I don't have a job. I used my creativity skills and became an entrepreneur / business owner. So, because there are a lot of people, I'm going to be honest, Brandon, that when things get tough, say they lose their job, they just throw their hands up in the air and they just sit and mope and not do anything about it, put themselves in a worse situation where if they had that entrepreneurial or business owner spirit in their mind, maybe that's what they're born with or not, then they could change what they're doing. And then maybe that would lead them into that life of business ownership or entrepreneurship. So I don't know. I think I've thought about this since we said we were going to talk about it, and I've tried to narrow it down, and I just don't think I can, because some people, they could have that. Like I know lots of quote unquote entrepreneurs who have idea after idea after idea after idea because they're so creative and they want to be an entrepreneur, but then they don't possess enough skills or dedicate enough time to develop themselves personally to maintain a successful career as a business owner or entrepreneur. So I don't know. I think like my theory is almost like a little bit of both. Like you maybe have to be born with a little bits of something in your mind to give you that entrepreneurial push, but then you also have to make yourself. Like I've learned a lot being an entrepreneur, things that I didn't know before being an entrepreneur. So Yeah, I can't answer that completely yes or no or born or made, but that's my thoughts towards it.
So here's the science. There's actually science behind it at some level. And the science, there's not a ton of science in this yet, but it is being investigated by researchers. And as it turns out, there was a study in London, about 48 to 50%, 37 to 48% of the tendency to be an entrepreneur is genetic. And this study was done by some researchers in England at King's College. The department was the Department of Twin Research and Genetic Epidemiology at King's College, London, which I probably just butchered how to say that. And they did a real scientific study, and basically 37 to 48% is in your genes. Now, the thing is that the study talked about it may not be a gene. It may be a combination of genes that you, I don't want to say have to have, but if you do have, give you that tendency. The other interesting thing is that along with an entrepreneur or being a business owner, wanting to own and run your own business, you could also say it's self-employment. And it turns out that self-employment income is inheritable. So you may just be a solopreneur. So anything where you want to have self-employment is inheritable. So they distinguished between those two things. So that's the science. They said there wasn't a ton in the literature review of a lot of other studies, but they have said that there is an interest in looking into this. And entrepreneurship's been studied forever. I mean, people like Stanford, schools like Stanford and these other schools have Harvard and Yale, the bigger schools that have the funds and the researchers' money, I guess, really have been looking at this as it relates to characteristics more around what makes a business successful or not. As it turns out, if you write a business plan, you're about, I don't have this study pulled up, but I think it's 37% more likely to be successful versus not having a plan. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to write a 50-page plan. In fact, I would encourage you don't do that, but have a plan in place to guide you. So there's actually science around it. And then on the science side, there's a book called David versus Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell that talks a lot about entrepreneurship and people who have overcome things. And the statistics say that somewhere around 30 to 40% of entrepreneurs actually have dyslexia. And I fall into that category. And the reason they believe it may not be because it's genetic, although it may be the genes in people with dyslexia align with this other genetic study, which would have to be looked at. But what they initially believe is that because people with dyslexia have a really hard time with things, reading and spelling and things like that, they learn to not overcompensate, but they learn how to overcome that with developing other skills, which can include creativity, which they may already have, but it brings out business development skills, people skills, talking their way out of things or into things, or basically enhancing other skills. So, and this is, if you think of is it five senses? Is it five senses? It's smell, hear,
touch,
see,
smell,
I don't know, 4 or
Smell.
5. What the main your main senses. If you don't have one, you'll see people naturally be able to
Pick
the
up
other ones become better than the average of what someone who has all of them. And that may be happening. So there are some genetic, as it appears, indicators to this. I've always said that I didn't think that you were born an entrepreneur, or I didn't think that you could teach it. And I never could explain it, but I was talking to a lady this week who was in the studio, and she is a 7-time Emmy Award-winning show business person. And she started her own production company after she left a career on TV. And I asked her this question because we were going to talk about it. And I said, well, what do you think? Do you think that you can teach this? And she said, I think you can teach entrepreneurship, but I think that taking risks is genetic. And now we're really starting to break this down, because can I teach you how to read a P&L? Can I teach you how to predict revenue? Can I teach you how to figure out what your customer acquisition cost is, your ARPU, all of these things? Can I teach you how to market, or different types of marketing that you could use? Yeah, I can teach you all of that if you're willing to learn. Leadership's another skill. I think people make leadership more complicated than it needs to be. Leadership is setting an example for people and doing the right thing. I mean, it's really no different than that. So if you naturally do that, and you do the right thing, and you live by a set of guiding principles, then of course people are going to follow you and they're going to respect you. So can you teach that? I don't know whether you can teach that or not. I don't know that leadership is necessarily fundamental to running a business. People will say it is, but some founders don't have any leadership really skills in that sense, and they hire a COO, or they hire someone in that blind spot because they're so good at a product or designing a service, or so good at marketing, or so good at building software. So I don't know that that's a requirement on that. But taking risks and dealing with the long-term risks, ups and downs, to your point earlier, where you have people who just say, I don't want to manage people. I don't want all of that, for lack of a better word, responsibility. But it's risk is really what they don't want, the risk of having to manage people that they may or may not be able to control, and for lack of a better way to put it, or lead. So it's the risk part and the endurance part of the emotional journey of starting a business and running it and growing it. It's just a really, really long grind. It's not just going to run a marathon in a day and getting through the pain points, or going to ride a century on your bike and just getting through the 5 times that you want to quit. It's not that. It's that. Well, it is that times thousands of days.
Yeah.
Continually wearing on you.
Yeah.
And that is the part for me that I think all the basics, and I think boiling it down is that the basics you can teach, the ability to withstand the emotional roller coaster and criticism that you get, because you are getting criticism as a business owner, entrepreneur, all the time.
Yeah, and you take
Danielle,
it for
that's not a good idea. You're never going to. Why? Everybody cleans houses. That's a commodity business. I mean, you're going to take that day in and day out. And can you? And if you want people to like you, it will even be harder on you, because you're not going to make them happy, and you're going to have to fight that. The last thing I'll say that you comment on one of the things you said is a very big misnomer. Having a good idea does not make you an entrepreneur, in my mind. Everybody has ideas. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Yeah. I am so tired of people telling me, well, I'm an entrepreneur because I have an idea. You're not Jack. Like, yeah, my nephew's had ideas since he could his brain was able to work in that regard. And he's had some really good ideas.
Right.
But it
he
doesn't
never
make him an
executed
entrepreneur.
them.
Yeah, execution is everything. You don't actually need, you do need to solve problems, but you don't need the most amazing idea. Respectfully, cleaning houses is not a earth-shattering idea.
Nope.
The reason that you're successful is because it's a decent idea with incredible execution based on processes, procedures, customer service, and delivering that service in an exceptional way. Selling shoes is not a great idea, but Zappos made it incredible by doing customer service. So I'm using these examples to say, you don't rate the business on the idea. You rate the business on the ability to execute it, turn it into a business, and make money. Until you do that, and maybe that makes me a snob, or you, or any of us who are actually entrepreneurs, but hey, come and prove it, man. I want you to be successful. I'm just saying you don't get to walk around with the entrepreneur thing because you have a good idea. I got like 5,000 ideas on this whiteboard that I'm trying to figure out what to do next. So,
right. I agree. All of that makes
my
sense.
rant.
I actually, while you were talking, I pulled up an article here from Forbes. And this is from this year, February 2nd, 2022. And they had an article that says, "Are successful entrepreneurs born or made?" And so they kind of went back and forth on some things that entrepreneurs need. And at the very end, they said, in conclusion, success in any field of life is not due to inborn traits. Rather, it is achieved through experiences, knowledge, and passion. And that is something that we have spoken about before, the passion to be able to deal with the consequences and the risks of being a business owner and entrepreneur. And so they continue to say, the same goes for business. Entrepreneurs are not marked from birth. They are people who have made a series of good decisions in their businesses and lives. Therefore, entrepreneurs are not born, they are made.
I disagree. I mean, they don't even look at the science. Doesn't sound like, I mean, the science, there's got to be some trait.
Yeah.
And I think it's around risk.
Yeah.
And the tolerance for pain. Not everybody can take, I would actually boil it down to that. Not everybody is good at pain. I'm good at tolerating pain. I mean all sorts of pain, from physical pain to emotional. I don't say every day, but in general, I'm riding my bike every day in pain from 3 ACLs and just wear and tear on a knee joint that is going to cause some pain. If you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have to endure incredible amounts of pain. And it's just a fact. Not everybody genetically can endure pain. I'm not saying that you're opted out to be an entrepreneur, but I think there's some traits of which just haven't been isolated yet.
Yeah.
That,
like natural born traits that you are born with.
Yeah, that contribute to being an entrepreneur. Isn't a gene. It is tons of skills that you have to have to be able to do it. But at the core, the least common denominator, I think, is risk and pain tolerance.
Yeah. And I mean, that could go from the beginning, like once you are an entrepreneur, again, successful entrepreneurs is a much different thing than just being an entrepreneur. You have to deal with pain and risk and all of those things once you are a quote unquote executed entrepreneur, or, whatever your business is kind of going or your idea is going. But even back to my point, Brandon, about being able to become an entrepreneur. Yeah, we're not born, knowing that we're going to be an entrepreneur. But I think there is a trait on top of your risk, or, the traits that you were just mentioning with the risk, the pain tolerance, things like that. I think there is also a trait, whether it is, I don't want to say creativity, but it may be a different kind of trait. If anybody who's listening can let us know if they're thinking about the same thing, but it's that trait to be able to execute something, like, again, cleaning is not an idea that is not, it's not a brand new idea. However, when COVID first hit, it was quite a scary time. I mean, so many businesses got shut down. However, our business flourished. Like, our company, we went crazy. And honestly, there were about 3 other, I don't want to say anything negative, but 3 other business owners in the cleaning industry that came to us and asked if they could work with us because we had an abundant amount of clients because their company or their business shut down. So why? Why did their business shut down and not ours? Was it because they got told by the government that they couldn't work, so they just went, oh, screw it, and then I'm going to work for someone else? But I continued. So what trait do I have where I persevered? Maybe that's what it is, or I created something out of a tough time where those other people didn't.
Well, that's a tough one because there's a lot of variables. We don't know what their pricing was. We don't know what their cash flow was. We don't know if they raised money or borrowed money and were in debt.
No, and
we don't know
I
that they.
I know what you mean when I say.
Yeah,
I just
well,
mean,
you asked the question, so I was trying to figure out how we isolate the variables to understand it. Maybe you were just asking a rhetorical question, and my dyslexia on spectrum was actually trying to answer the question, but.
But you understand what I'm saying, though? Like, there seems to be something that a lot of these actual entrepreneurs who have these successful companies have, that where a lot of their stories have come from, like, they come from, this has happened. I was, addicted to drugs on the street, and I had this opportunity, and I created this company. Like Steve Harvey, he is an amazing entrepreneur, and I've listened to his story many times, and he was in the Bronx. I think that's what it is. It's like, a very underprivileged place. And he was growing up and he wanted to do comedy. And he basically took this show that he did for free, I believe. And he just did it for like 3 or 4 nights in a row. And at one of the shows, there was just somebody there that was like, that's the man. And he made them all laugh. And that's what started his career. So, he took that opportunity. So I don't know what that trait is. If it's, you're just not going to say no to every opportunity, creativity, perseverance, there is something there that starts all of these stories, because something like 90% of entrepreneurs all have a shitty beginning, and they've turned it around with their traits that we're unsure of, that have become these successful entrepreneurs. You very seldomly hear an entrepreneurial story that goes, oh, I grew up and I went to all these fancy schools and my parents were billionaires and, I just decided to become an entrepreneur. The story's never really like that.
Well, I wonder that in the Steve Harvey case, or even your case, or any of our cases, that an event triggers the genetics that you already have that you didn't realize.
Yeah, that's a good theory.
So you only discover them through these places where you say you had no choice, where people will say in their story, I had no choice. I can't work for someone else. I couldn't do anything. I didn't know what to do. So I just decided to do this. The question is, did that bring out something that already exists? And it's very hard to scientifically study it, but and look, somebody could have the trait and they just don't get a life event that triggers them realizing that they have that trait.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many times in life have you tried something that you haven't tried and you're good at it, and you think to yourself, wow, I didn't realize I would be good at that, or I didn't think I'd be good at that, and you're actually good at it because it triggered your ability to do something else. So what is that? I mean, acts of desperation will bring out things in people that they never knew they had. I mean, that's There's stories about that in every which way.
Well, and that's my story.
People didn't think they were strong. Like, there you go. I mean, so is it an act of desperation that brings it out? Are you just against the wall and you have no choice? But no choice is a tough thing to talk about because everybody has choices. You could say in your story, well, I didn't want to work for anyone. I didn't think I was employable. Well, you just break that up. I didn't think I was employable. Well, what's that mean? Because everybody's generally employable. Mm-hmm. You might have to check yourself or do something. So my point is, it's really difficult, but it really goes back for me is, I think, talking about it and been thinking about it, is you can teach the actual mechanics. You can absolutely teach the mechanics at some level as long as someone can learn, and which most people can or care. I will comment on passion. I think passion and motivation get overemphasized as a thing to get you through. Passion wanes. Motivation wanes. If you and I go to a Tony Robbins event, we are going to be so jacked up on self-improvement for probably the entire event for sure. And then I bet you it's not linear. If you graph this, you're motivated. If we look at a graph and we have motivation on the left and time along the bottom, motivation is going to go through the roof.
And then it'll go down. We're
going to stay at that motivation. Not only is it going to go down, but I think it's going to crash. Mm-hmm. And what happens is you cross a barrier of, in that case, of behavior. And passion wanes. I mean, passion isn't this, it's very hard to maintain any level of passion. I mean, take relationships.
Yeah.
Your passion for your partner over 20 plus years, it doesn't mean you love them more or less. I would say love is, I don't know if love is binary. That's an interesting one. But it changes. And what really keeps people together in some cases, unless there's just some crazy thing, is the endurance of risk and pain. Because some things are tough. Mm-hmm. And you got to be willing to endure and get through disagreements, arguments. People change in life. Are you willing to flow like that? And it's the same thing with entrepreneurship in that, passion is just not enough. You'll be passionate. You could be passionate about doing knitting and then actually finding suppliers, getting your online site set up, taking the pictures, writing the description, integrating your email service, getting a CRM set up, get your Stripe account set up. When you start to scale, you're going to need multiple merchant banks. You're going to need insurance. You're going to need to incorporate. You want me to keep going? Like, passion's going to wane.
Oh, of course.
And it's really that endurance and risk. It's not only the risk, but I think talking through this, it's endurance. So yeah, I think that you can't teach that. I can teach you this because they teach it in the military. They can teach you that you believe that you are going to quit at the first wave of suffering.
Yep.
And what they can teach you is that you'll go through about 3 waves before you actually die. So they'll unlock the discovery of what you can do. They do this in the military all the time. They turn what appears to be an average man or woman into a warrior. And they do it by allowing them to discover what's actually in them that they don't know. So that's my my
theory.
Maybe I'm just talking it through out loud.
No, I think we
that's
both.
My theory. I think that.
Oh, I was going to say, I think we both bring solid points. It'd be very interesting if there is somebody listening who is maybe in the science field, who maybe has done some research on this, or maybe a paper or something. I'd love to hear about it, because there's so many theories and thoughts towards this, because there really is no easy way to pinpoint it. Everybody's story is different. Everybody's life is different. If everybody lived in the same 100 years and the exact same events happening every single day, maybe we could pinpoint it. But everybody has such different lives and different makeup in their brain and things like that. So it'd be really interesting to hear if others do have theories or points to share in regards to this topic.
I agree. So are we agreeing that we're just not going to come to an agreement?
I think so. But I think it's cool that we've discussed it, because anybody could really take a lot from this. Yes, you need to have, well, for anybody listening, they're probably already business owners or aspiring entrepreneurs, or very successful entrepreneurs at that. And, it is a cool thing to think about, because we all do share these cool traits. But then there are traits that you have to constantly be developing and constantly be doing better, and learning and teaching yourself. So I think it's still very knowledgeable for anybody listening.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So I think the takeaway is there's probably some genetics of some traits. What those traits are, we'll have to see. Is your dog upset?
Yeah, Manny is crying right now. He's being whiny.
Yeah, that's genetic, or is that learned?
I think that is a mixture of being a baby and the fact that I baby him and I spoil him. So when he doesn't get his way, he calls for mommy. So that's a little bit of born and made. But
he actually you could bring out the trait that he actually has independence in him.
Yes, because if he was in the wild, he wouldn't be this sucky or whiny, and it would be natural traits.
So that's like puppies are a great example. Not all puppies are the same. Some puppies have drive. Some of them are laid back, and I think there's this narrative that everybody can be an entrepreneur. And I don't actually think that's true. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's bad. And that's no different than saying everybody can be a basketball player,
right,
in the NBA. Like, no, not everybody can be an NBA. Not everybody can be a soccer player. Not everybody can be a tennis player. Not everybody can be a golf player. Can you do okay? Sure. But some people can't swim well. Some people can't surf well. Some people don't ride bikes well. Some people aren't runners. Some people, it's not bad. I think for a while here, we went through a phase where everybody can be everything, Danielle. Everybody can be everything, and everybody deserves to be everything, and you're entitled to be that. Well, you're not. And sorry, we're all different, and it's not bad. Mm-hmm. It's okay. That's what makes people and societies interesting, is that you can actually talk to people who are good at something else that you may not be and may not be able to be, and that's okay. Because here, talking this through, isn't it interesting that people will talk about athletes and say, well, they just have what do they call it, like natural ability,
right?
And people say that all the time about athletes. Well, they're naturally gifted. They naturally have this skill that allows them to be a great tennis player or a golfer or whatever. But then when we talk about entrepreneurship, it's, oh no, everybody's entitled to do that. Everybody can do that. No, everybody cannot do it. And it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not evil. It's just life.
Right.
And if you don't have that trait to be an entrepreneur, it doesn't mean you can't be a part of a startup company or any company. You can still go join a company and fill a gap that someone else who may have founded that company may not have, and still have an entrepreneurial experience.
Yeah.
But, that no different than you could go be a trainer for a professional athlete, and you could be a part of that experience by doing that, or being a coach or an assistant coach or a manager or in the business office. And you can still be a part of that experience. And it's not bad. It's just different. And I think this idea that different is a problem is a problem.
I agree. I mean, I'm not going to get upset because I go to try out for the NBA and they go, Danielle, you're 5 foot tall. Good luck. There's traits that I was not born with that are not going to help me in the NBA. I think everybody has their thing. Everybody has their niche, and it's not a bad thing if you're not an entrepreneur. There are so many people that are like, oh, I want to be, but they never actually do it. I just don't think that maybe it's part of your genetic makeup or whatever we're discussing. But you can still be very successful at anything you want to do. It's crazy. And this actually, I think we talked about this a while ago, about people and being entitled to feel like they should be able to do everything and anything. Everybody needs to get rid of that. I think it's almost depressing. It's not good for people to think that they are able to do everything, because you're going to be let down every single day if you feel like you can do everything, because it's physically impossible, mentally impossible. You cannot be good at everything. So choose what you're good at and do well at it.
Yeah, you're gonna have traits that make you better at some things. You might be a better swimmer than you are a runner. That's not bad. Mm-hmm. That's just the way we get dealt the cards. It doesn't mean that you can't overcome things. I don't think we're saying that at all. When you said 5 foot, Spud Webb played in the NBA, and I think he actually was 5'1", 2, 3, or 4, or something small, and he was an incredible basketball player. Not only was he incredible, he could dunk at that height. But those are the exceptions. But they're not the exceptions. They're just the outliers. It's just not everybody's going to do that. It doesn't mean that nobody can do it. Mm-hmm. There's always the exception, and there's no reason why you can't be the exception. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying in general, you just might not have the trait, just no different than I might not have a trait to be a chef or a singer. I love to be a singer. I think singing is cool. Can you imagine singing for a living and making tons of money? But it's just not a gene, skill, trait, whatever that I got. So not good or bad, but I'm not entitled to be a singer because I want to be a singer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the same goes with entrepreneurship.
I completely agree. 100%. I think we've kind of come up with a different theory here or some other little thoughts. But I still think we are agreeing to disagree, or agreeing to agree that there is no right or wrong answer when it comes to born or made. I think it's a little bit of both, I think, maybe.
Well, I think if somebody's listening and they want to build a business and they're even worrying about it, just go try it and do it and see how it works out for you.
Yeah. And
try it. There's no harm in trying. There's none of that. And the truth is you can the saying is, and parents will teach, you can do anything you put your mind to, Danielle, which is true. But there are certain things that you just not going to be able to do, and that's okay. It's not bad. It's just the way life happens. Mm-hmm. It's not about being fair or not fair. I don't think that is. I just think it's what we are. Yes. Is Manny near you?
He is.
Is he all right now?
Yeah, he's fine. He was just being a baby.
So there we have it. I don't know if you're made or born. I do think there's genetic traits. And I think the other thing is try it. Sometimes you may have it and you don't even realize you have it, but you're going to have to take a risk and you're going to have to be able to endure pain. I wish that wasn't true. I wish everyone doesn't experience pain and just builds their business and it's as easy as pie. But there's so many variables and so many things that you have to do on a regular basis, from academic things like math and selling a product to human interaction and where you work with other people. And most startups fail. Sometimes I don't know the exact stats, but in the top 3, I think, is founders don't agree. Mm-hmm. It's not because you don't have a good idea. It's not because the product doesn't solve our problems. It's because founders don't agree. So Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good discussion.
I agree. That was fun. I enjoyed that a lot. And everybody, you should take the risk to try it. Just like Brandon says, I think there's so many great ideas out there that are not executed. So if you have a great idea, try it, and maybe you'll be the next.
We'll end on that. Have a great week.
You too. Thanks, everyone.